This is Everybody Pulls the Tarp with your host, Andrew Moses. Each week, Andrew talks with Olympians, pro athletes, TV stars, Grammy winners, best-selling authors, CEOs, and other high performers to uncover their success secrets.
My guest is Washington Commanders running back Austin Ekeler.
Every day we write a page of our life. The best thing is you have the pen in your hand.
Three-time Olympic gold medalist Tessa Virtue. Welcome back to Everybody Pulls the Tarp.
Thanks for thinking of me, and I'm a big fan of the podcast and of yours. So anytime you text or call, I'm here.
Mike Mills from REM.
The key to that was realizing at some point fairly early on that this was probably our life's work.
Every conversation is jam-packed with inspiration and actionable ideas.
My guest is 2023 WNBA Coach of the Year, Stephanie White.
The hardest thing for a coach is trying to prioritize how much time you put in one area or another.
Former MLB player, coach, and manager Clint Hurdle.
That is the best title of any podcast out there in America, and the content matches up to it. Andrew, you do a fantastic job. I'm a big fan. Keep up the great work.
World-renowned organizing expert Shira Gill.
You can improve your life simply by removing things.
Get ready for a behind-the-scenes look at the techniques, processes, and mindsets powering the world's most successful people.
Let's go. Hi, friends, and welcome back to a new season of Everybody Pulls the Tarp. This week, my guest is Tony-nominated Broadway star Lorna Courtney. Lorna starred as Juliet in the hit Broadway musical and Juliet, where she earned a Tony Award nomination for Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role in a Musical. After & Juliet, she played Veronica Sawyer in the show Heathers the Musical, a role she recently wrapped up in early December. Now, Lorna is amidst preparation to star as Anne Wheeler in the world premiere stage adaptation of The Greatest Showman, the 2017 film starring Hugh Jackman as P.T. Barnum. So let me get this episode all set up for you. Lorna and I first met when I was in Denver, Colorado, one weekend speaking at a teen leadership conference, and Lorna was at the event as well to perform. During some downtime, Lorna and I got to talking about her career, my career, and the Everybody Pulls the Tarp mindset. As soon as I told her about the Everybody Pulls the Tarp story and the ideas we're uncovering on this podcast about teamwork, collaboration, and selflessly working together for something bigger than yourself, her eyes lit up and she said, "That's theater." She went on to explain that so much in the theater industry and what you see during a performance is the result of countless people on stage and behind the scenes living the Everybody Pulls the Tarp mindset. After that conversation with Lorna, I started studying the theater world more closely, and there is no question that Lorna is right. Tarp pullers are everywhere in the theater world. Many of the same ideas that I talked about in that conversation with Lorna while we were in Denver also popped up in the podcast I recorded a few months ago with Wicked star Jenna Bainbridge. And I got an even closer view at it all when Jenna brought my family and I backstage at the Gershwin Theater for a behind-the-scenes tour of how it all comes together at Wicked. It was incredible, and that experience with Jenna only reinforced what I've come to learn over the past few months since that first conversation I had with Lorna. The Everybody Pulls the Tarp mindset is a driving force behind the incredible performances we see on stage in theaters all over the world. And the lessons, they apply far beyond the stage. In early December, Lorna and I caught up again and recorded the conversation you are about to hear. We explored Lorna's journey and many of her success secrets. Lorna pulled back the curtain on many of the mindsets, ideas, and decisions that have shaped a journey that's taken her from days as a shy young kid all the way to belting out hit songs on the Broadway stage. As you will hear, so much of Lorna's success is a product of her extraordinary work ethic, relentless focus on never leaving a stone unturned, and her incredible collaborative spirit. At its core, our conversation is filled with powerful ideas on stepping out of your comfort zone, making the most of opportunities, adapting to new situations, and so much more. My friends, Lorna's story is absolutely inspiring, and I hope you take away as much from this one as I have. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. It is not intended to be a substitute for the advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional. So, let's pull the tarp and get straight to Lorna Courtney. Lorna, where I want to begin, I want to go way back. I have read and heard people describe you as shy as a child. I'm going to give you a moment to set the record straight. Would you agree with that characterization of Lorna Courtney? Were you shy as a child and needed a little bit of time to break out of your shell?
For sure. I mean, I'm not as shy now, but I'm definitely still introverted. It shows up in that way. But in certain spaces, I can like adapt and become like really extroverted. But no, yeah, I was really shy as a kid. And it wasn't until my mom put me in this like after school program, this arts after school program, a choir, that I sort of broke out of my shell because I had to like perform on stage, and get used to doing that, get used to other people hearing my voice, get used to singing and clapping and dancing at the same time.
So Lorna, that was in seventh
Yeah.
grade that your mom signed you up for the gospel after school program. Did you ask her to do that? Did she say that I'm going to do this? Because it doesn't track with being shy and introverted to say, I'm going to go join the gospel after school program.
She was watching CBS 60 Minutes and she saw a segment on this program and she saw it was free and she knew I liked singing. So she just said, okay, you have an audition this day for this. And I was like, wait, what? Okay, I have to learn a song.
And what do you remember most once things got rolling and you were part of the program? Like, was there something immediately that struck you as, hey, this is an environment I could get used to and pursue further?
Well, they kept saying we're singing on one accord. And it was very interesting because in any choir, eventually I was a part of different choirs in school and the Summer Institute program in New York. You really have to listen and work together in order to create this one sound in your section, alto, soprano, tenor. Usually there's no baritone or bass that young, but and then to make sounds because all the three or more parts are all moving differently as a whole. So it taught me that. I also got my first theatrical experiences from that choir. The choir also made musicals, and I was a part of a musical that had already existed that the founder made like a long time ago in the 80s called Mom, I Want to Sing. They did a revival, and I was able to travel to Japan on tour with them for a month.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to beg my mom. I was 15. And she let me go because there was a tutor on set.
Was there at any moment in that? I mean, obviously, like it's a big decision to go to Japan and take time off of school and work with the tutor. And you're getting a taste of some of that, like what that life might look like. But was there any moment at that point that you said, hey, I could do this professionally? I could make a living doing this? Or was it not yet?
Not yet. At that time, it was just, what am I going to study in school? Like, what do I want to do in college? Because in high school, I was studying opera, and that musical introduced me to the way that I guess performing arts can have an impact on people, no matter where they're from, what language they speak, what culture. They can still relate to the music, the feeling, the message. So I was just studying opera, and then I got the opportunity to be in my school's musical. My junior and senior year, I played Nina in The Heights and then Belle in Beauty and the Beast. And I think definitely after
my favorite Disney movie right there.
Yes,
Beauty and the
definitely
Beast.
after Nina in The Heights, I was like, okay, yeah, I could see myself doing musical theater for school.
So then what goes into the decision to go to Michigan at that point? Like, because I would imagine that there's a lot of different paths that you could take at that moment.
Yeah. And like for a kid wanting to do musical theater, I was like, okay, well, how many schools do I have to audition for? How many schools? I had like a list of like 15 schools because I had no idea what they were looking for, whether or not there was maybe someone already in the class that looks like me, that, like it's those sort of factors and then, okay, so I decided, all right, now I have to like prepare for these college auditions. I talked with my school's alumni association, and I got a scholarship through them to take dance classes at Broadway Dance Center. And then I reached out to HB Studios and I got a scholarship to take acting classes with like a teen acting program during the summer and during the school year. And that sort of like prepared me for the college audition, or the college audition process, I should say. But there's like Unifieds. And I think that year there was like a blizzard or a snowstorm. So we got stuck like in like Midtown at Unifieds. And then I also, for like the top schools, I told my mom, I was like, "Wait, can we please drive there? Like, can I audition in person?" And so we did for Michigan and for Carnegie. And we even went to like Oberlin in Ohio. And what did I go to and CCM too?
So when you get to Michigan, is there any point where you start to doubt whether this was the right path for you, or was it all like, this is absolutely where I should be?
Oh, all the time. I mean, Michigan was so hard. It was exhausting because we had dance classes like at 8 a.m. every single day. And my book bag was like so heavy from carrying all the school books. Like I didn't have time to go back home, really. I started the crock pot and made chili, put it on 10 hours or whatever. And then by the time I got home from school, that's when I ate. Like I ate in between, but you know what I mean? Like
But that was your dinner.
Exactly. I didn't have time to go back home. There was no break. There was no rest. It was extremely hard. And being in the arts, it's like a coin toss, essentially. It's like, who knows what can happen? So I definitely had a backup plan. And my backup plan was fundraising within the arts. And so I did like internships in college. I also graduated early too. I don't know if you know that. I graduated in 3.
I did read that.
So
I did read that.
Maybe I made it a little bit harder on myself. My workload was a lot. And then during the school year, and then during the summers, I also took classes too at the local community college, like some of the gen eds that I can get out of the way, Psych 101, Social 101.
You used an interesting phrase there a moment or two ago that I want to go back to.
Yeah.
And you used the phrase coin toss.
Yeah.
That I think this is something that like a lot of people probably look from afar at people who achieve success by the standard of success in a lot of different industries, not just in theater and the arts. And they say, you know what? I can put in a lot of work. I can meet the right people. But at the end of the day, it is still a coin toss.
Yeah.
Which I think what you're saying is that like it could still go either way. Like I could do all the right things and it still not work out exactly how I wanted. For you, you kind of guarded against it not going the way you wanted by having a backup plan, as you described. But how did you mentally reconcile with that? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people, whether they're pursuing a career in theater or they're doing something totally different, that says, you know what, I could put in all the effort, do all the right things by my standard or what people guide me to do, and it still not work out. How did you mentally reconcile all of that? That's really interesting, the way you put that.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I wanted to choose a school that met 100% or close to 100% of financial aid. So I got full like financial aid, full scholarship to 3 schools. And for me, going into the arts, because I'm like a risk adverse person, I didn't want to take out any loans. Like I knew that for me, I just would not feel comfortable taking out, because my parents weren't going to take out the loans. I would have had to take out the loans. So that's why I chose Michigan, that, and I wanted to like experience something. I could have went to NYU. I could have stayed in New York, but I wanted to experience something different. Also get away from the parents, get away from the family, like grow up.
Grow up a little bit. Exactly. What was it about Ann Arbor, Michigan? Because people, I've been to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and there are people who haven't been to Ann Arbor, Michigan, who probably think that it's just this in the middle of nowhere college town. But the people there see it as a big city, not like people who are from New York see it as a big city.
That's true.
What did you find most interesting, or what struck you the most? What did you take away most in terms of like infusing something different from New York into your character as a human?
I'd never been a part of a college town. Like I've never seen a college town before. So there was that sense of, community, and especially when it comes to sports and things like that. But to go to a school that's like, that has really like smart people, great students that are also very talented and sporty, and it felt really good. Also for my college audition, that was the only audition where I didn't feel nervous. The people there were just very warm and welcoming and inviting. I mean, it's not that you can't find that in New York. It's just different. I also have an aunt and uncle that live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So that's why my mom was like, okay, you can go.
She was a little extra comfortable.
Exactly. Someone to watch over me.
So you have this, I mean, it's evident just in the conversation that we had when we met, earlier this year, and in all the research and reading that I've done to learn more about you in the lead up to this conversation. But you have this clear, like this New York hustle, this New York work ethic that a lot of people describe. I am curious, like, was there a point when you would look around, maybe it was in that gospel choir after program, maybe it was at LaGuardia, maybe it was at Michigan, was there a point you looked around and said, my work ethic is different from others? Like, there's something different about my work ethic. I'm willing to push myself a little further, or talk about that.
Well, I mean, so I wasn't there to play around, and other people would like play around and like party and like do silly things. But I'm not a risky person, remember? So I was there to like do my work, to learn, to gather all the information that I could, and to use that to further myself, or at least try to attempt to. And that's what I did. Like my spring break of my senior year, instead of going away on vacation, I went back to New York and I put my name on the non-equity lists for auditions, got up at like 5 a.m. and was seen by casting directors. First, they had to see all the people in equity, and then they see the people in non-equity. And then the casting directors started sending me auditions soon after. And that's why, like, when I only spent a week there, then when I went back to school, I already had auditions coming in, and a couple of those auditions stuck and landed by the time I graduated. So by the time I graduated, I got a call in my showcase saying, we want to offer you the role of Lana and Zoe Standby and Dear Evan Hansen. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it felt really great to have that sort of like security. I'm moving to New York. I don't have to go through the summer stock theater process. That's usually what people do out of school, but I can live. Also, I have another aunt and uncle that live in Stuytown in the city, and I could stay with them and do my first job on Broadway.
Lorna, it just strikes me. I mean, a lot of people out there who say they want to accomplish something, and then there are people who show by the way they operate that they truly want to accomplish something. And, like I read this story about when you were going to LaGuardia, it was a 1.5 hour commute for you to get there. I mean, you would take a bus and then 3 trains because the Long Island Railroad was too expensive for you at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about, and then saying like everybody else is going to go to spring break, I'm going to go back to New York and try and get a head start. I'm going to graduate in 3 years if I can make it happen. I mean, there's just something about saying you want to accomplish something and then showing that you want to accomplish something.
Right. And like a lot of the time it's just you have to be at the right place at the right time. That also happens. But during that time in spring break, I was at a summer stock theater audition, and across the hall, I saw that Dreamgirls auditions were happening. And so I was in a dance call. And so I started like just stretching over there. And I was like, I asked the monitor, I was like, is there any way that I could audition for this? And she was like, no, sorry, it's agent appointment only. And I didn't have an agent. And so I start like talking to like the people. I was like, oh, you have an agent, And then she comes back out and I was like, well, can I hand you my headshot and resume? And she was like, yeah, sure. So she goes in and I go and like bomb that audition. I did not do well with the dance call. And then I'm off to another summer stock theater audition. And I see you have an appointment for Dina Laurel in Dreamgirls, like the next day. I was like, what? So like,
Must have done something right.
Yeah. Well, they saw, okay, well, she kind of looks like she could play the part and she already has things on her resume and she went to Michigan. So that's good, like education. Why not? Let's give her a chance. And also, she just went up and asked. But I wouldn't have had the opportunity if I didn't ask.
All right, everyone. We'll get back to the conversation momentarily. But first, I want to tell you about my free weekly email newsletter, Tarp Pullers. Each week, I share an uplifting and inspirational tarp pulling story that is sure to brighten your day. And I also highlight some of the most powerful ideas I've learned on my journey talking to 200 and counting of the world's top performers. The newsletter is short, concise, and a reader recently told me this. She said it makes her day every time it hits her inbox. Go to everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter to sign up today. That is also such a profound idea that comes up in so many of my conversations with the world's top performers in sports, entertainment, media, business, people who just take the chance.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take a lot of chances, which is hard for people. I would put myself in the same bucket as you, is risk averse.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for people, especially when you're risk averse, to take chances, but you got to say, what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
And
you have to weigh.
The best thing that could happen is something really, really positive that sets me a foot in the right direction. I'm curious, you get that first role on Broadway in Dear Evan Hansen is a standby understudy role.
For 2 teen girls.
So that's like I'm always fascinated to kind of like unpack all the different roles that go into like making something happen. At that point of your career, like what does being a standby understudy for these 2 roles look like? I recently had a conversation with a professional soccer player who went to the Olympics as the alternate. She didn't sit on the bench. She had to sit actually like in the first row of the stands behind the bench.
What?
But she had to be with the team for the entire Olympics.
Yeah.
And if somebody got hurt, they would roster her. And then she needed to be ready to jump in. So she needed to always stay ready so that she didn't have to get ready if something happened. And then she said, she also said, she's like, I was there, like, I wanted to bring good vibes. Like, I knew that like they were going through a stressful period. They were focused on competing every single day. I wasn't guaranteed to be rostered any single day, but I was going to add positive vibes. I think about the theater world, and there are so many people that contribute. What does that look like when you're a standby, and especially in your first role on Broadway?
Right. I think it's very similar to that analogy with sports, that even though you're on the sideline, you still have to do warm up. You still have to go to practice or rehearsals. You still have to like put in the work to make sure your body, your mind, in this case, your voice is capable to do the job that you signed up for, right? To do the job that you're required to do. So yeah, of course we have fun. And of course she would have fun and cheering them on. But at any moment's notice, you have to be on and you have to be ready. You have to study your lines. You have to rehearse. You have to And in this case, it's harder because you're learning 2 separate tracks. So you're kind of like dividing your mind in a way. And I know swings. And I guess you could say that a standby is like a type of swing or an understudy. But normally when people refer to swings, they refer to people that are understudies, but in the ensemble. Like they swing in for the ensemble and they have to learn up to like 8 different tracks. And you have to be really smart in order to do that. You have to like really know how to compartmentalize, I guess. Because if you don't know this track, then you can get hurt or you can hurt someone else.
I can't even imagine trying to keep 2 roles or 2 tracks straight. My family always laughs and jokes at me. Like, I can't multitask for anything. Like we're having this conversation, like I am right here in this conversation. I can't do anything else right now.
Me neither. Like some people, like my partner, Austin, he could like work and listen to music, but I'm so musical. I'll just sing the music. You know what I mean? Like I can't focus.
I would love to hear what it's like when you just start singing along to music that you're listening to. I'm sure that's a great treat for anybody who's in and around. So Lorna, I am curious, let's talk about like the adrenaline and like the preparation to perform. I would imagine like you're coming from playing lead roles, albeit in smaller productions, in the Heights, Beauty and the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
You've had other things. And then you're in this role where you're doing a lot of preparation, as you just described, but then a lot of kind of waiting around.
Yeah.
How do you like keep that adrenaline? Like when you go on to play Juliet and Juliet, there has to be this extraordinary amount of adrenaline that kind of pumps into your body. But you don't have that on a nightly basis when you're in that standby role. Like talk about that. Like how do you maintain
on the contrary,
and keep that ready?
Yeah, you have a lot of adrenaline because it's like nerves when you're just like randomly, selected to go on. And so I had to deal with, how do I prevent myself from throwing up in this moment because I'm so nervous? Like, how do I calm myself down? And over the course of however many years, I've learned different methods. And a lot of it is just like connecting to your breath, really, especially when singing, because if you're nervous and you're singing in your chest, then that's shallow breathing and that's not good. But you want the breath to go deeper to your belly and abdomen. And so I didn't necessarily know that then, but I learned that. And once you do the role multiple times, like once it's an everyday occurrence, then it's just like a job, like anything else. You sort of just are a bit numb to that fact. And you're just like, okay, I'm here to say my lines. And of course, every day will be different because the audience reactions are different. And the adrenaline that you feel in that moment is just like the carriage or the carrying of your character arc and your story, like making sure that you're on that journey so that the audience can also be on that journey with you.
It's so interesting.
It's more controlled though.
No, the way you described it there makes complete sense. It's so interesting. I mean, because when you're playing the role every day, you almost have this ability to release that stress and that tension and get comfortable and get routinized. In the other environment, you're not. So let's talk about And Juliet. How does, everybody's wondering, how does that all come together? I mean, that's the big break.
Yeah, well, this was like post-pandemic and auditions were just starting back up. I auditioned for this one show called Jagged Little Pill, and I was in finals for it. And I didn't end up getting the role. And I was so bummed. Like, I remember having like, what was I? I was in Forest Hills at a restaurant with my aunt, just like crying. And she was like, it's okay, Lorna, something else would come. But in that moment, you don't want to believe it. And then a couple weeks later, And Juliet audition comes around and I see like, oh, it's actually the same producer and general management team like as Jagged Little Pill. I'm like, okay, so they already know me and they invited me to this audition. And maybe even the same casting director too. I think so. So I was like, of course, really nervous. So I get the script and I'm reading it with my best friend and her mom. And we're reading the script and I'm really moved by it and really touched, like crying. I'm an emotional person, but still.
It's an incredibly moving show.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question about that.
Such a beautiful, empowering story. And her mom goes, Lorna, you have to get this part. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like feeling the pressure. But I go in and do the audition. And I think, now looking back, I think they were just looking to see like, oh, can this girl sing roar? Can she sing the high note? Can she sing? Can she belt? And does she have potential? Right? Because I think like where I was in my career was sort of like where Juliet is in her story of trying to find herself, trying to find her voice, becoming a woman, like really learning and taking in all the information and being a bit naive and being a bit, I don't know, just saying yes and to things like, oh, let's go. What Juliet does. She goes to Paris and just has a party with her best friends. Like, so I felt really aligned with that character. And I think that they saw that in my audition. And I had a final callback And the creative team wasn't even there. The creative team was on Zoom because it was still COVID. But like,
So they're on Zoom.
They're on Zoom. There was Max Martin just in Sweden or wherever he was on Zoom. And I also meet Betsy Wolf because she's having her final callback the same time as me. And she was lovely. We actually, after our auditions, we like took a picture together. And I think she kind of knew that was like the pairing that was going to happen. Yeah. And a few days after that, I get the call from my agent and manager. I was working at Equinox at the time. And a lot of the musical theater.
So you're literally at Equinox.
No,
like
I was at
Equinox,
like behind the desk, like checking people in. And I get the phone call and I have to take it into my manager's office. And all of my coworkers, all the girls are with me, and they're like, ah, when they hear like that you got the part. And at the time, I didn't really. I mean, I knew what it was. Like, it was the lead in a musical with music by Max Martin and the book by David West Reed, who are famous and amazing in their own right. I just didn't realize how much of a success the musical would do. I mean, I read an article the other day where there is currently only 3 musicals post-pandemic that have actually recouped their initial investment. And Juliet is one of those 3. Can you guess the other ones? Maybe you don't know musicals. There's a really famous one with the wives.
These debuted after COVID?
Yeah. It opened after COVID. The other ones are Six the Musical and MJ the Musical.
Okay.
And then Juliet. And I was like, wow, and I was in the show. I was in the show for, I think it was a year and a half when we met that mark, when we recouped. And then I continued on for a little bit longer. But yeah, it just feels so great. Like, not only knowing the audience reactions and how much they're loving it, and how much when I go to the stage door, the little girls are looking up at me and they're saying, I want to do what you're doing. I love the story. But then to also financially be a success too, I guess it means something different. You know what I mean? It even adds to that meaning of what success would be.
Certainly. I always say that, if you're when people, I've had the good fortune of talking to a lot of best-selling authors, and I'll ask them, how do you reconcile the craft and the art versus the business side? And one of the best kind of conclusions that I've come to is that if you don't find a way to truly master the business side of it, you don't always get to perform the craft.
Yeah.
And if the musical doesn't have the financial success that it has, then it doesn't get to reach as many people and impact as many of those little girls that you described that meet you at the stage door and tell you they look up to you. And
yeah. And so I'm so incredibly proud of the show. And I've seen it on Broadway. Just a couple weeks ago, I saw for our 3rd year anniversary, I sung with the current Juliet and then the Juliet that took over after me. We all sung together, and I was next to Betsy and Stark. And it was just such a beautiful experience knowing that, wow, this is still going, and it'll hopefully still go for some time, and I continue to come back. I also saw it on tour. I'm very proud.
That's an incredible accomplishment, something that you and the entire cast and company should be incredibly proud of. It's a wonderful, beautiful musical. I think that there's nobody who can walk out of there not feeling a little bit more inspired.
Yeah. Sort of like a party too, because all the songs, all the jams, just jamming.
Those are some jams. There's no doubt that that's filled with some jams. So I'm curious. One of the things I'm curious, Lorna, to ask you about is, so you play Juliet, this iconic role, have extraordinary success, and you go on to play Veronica Sawyer in Heathers, which we're recording this here in early December. Your final show will be December 8th. Then you will go continue preparation for your role as a star in The Greatest Showman. You'll be starring as Ann Wheeler. It's the world premiere stage adaptation of the show of the iconic 2017 film starring Hugh Jackman. I am curious, do you have a methodology yet? Do you have an approach for Lorna Courtney to say goodbye to one character, to one chapter, and say hello to a new, like, how does that happen? Like, I'm not good at dealing with change. So I would imagine this would be, doing what you do is very hard for me. Like, it would be very hard for me to say goodbye to Juliet and move on to something else, and then say goodbye to that and move on to something. How do you do that?
I think one of the most important skills in being an actor is adaptability to change, because anything can happen at a show at any time. A light cue a person isn't standing where they're supposed to be. A blackout happens that happens sometime during Dear Evan Hansen. Like, anything can happen at any time. Somebody drops a line. You have to be there to say their line for them, or to just skip it and do your line, So, and that stuff happens all the time. I'm lucky because, normally this isn't the case where, like, I leave one show and I have an opportunity already, right afterwards. Normally it, like, takes some time to keep auditioning for things. So this is the first time that's happening. The first time where I'm sort of, well, actually, no, I did lie, because after Dear Evan Hansen, I went into West Side Story and I was doing double duty for a little bit. Like, I finished Dear Evan Hansen on October 6th of, I forget what year. And I started West Side Story the very next day, but I was in rehearsals during the same time. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing trapeze lessons currently while I'm still in Heathers. And I'm so exhausted. I'm so tired, but I do feel like I'm getting stronger and things are getting easier. Like, I'm gaining more skills in that way. And sometimes that's just, it is what it is, because I can't be over there right now in London since I'm in the show currently. And once I start rehearsals, and we start rehearsals at the end of the month, they want me sort of at least already knowing the language and knowing how to move my body and what muscles to use to create certain shapes. And they just want me to be prepared. So I feel good about it. I feel good.
Laura, it is just, you can just feel the passion that you have for all of this just oozing from the words that you're sharing. You've been so generous with your time. As we get ready to wrap up our conversation, I am curious if there's one piece of advice that you could give young Lorna, who is just starting that gospel after school program in 7th grade. What advice would you give young Lorna?
I would say trust in yourself, and also lean on your support system. Lean on the people who love you, the people who fuel you and are always there for you.
Is there something that you worried excessively about at some point earlier on in your career that you wish you had not consumed so much space in your mind with?
I'm constantly worrying. I'm a worrier. I'm a worrier type of person. That part, like, that gets too much space in my brain. So I'm actually, like, learning ways to, like, worry less and just, like, let things be, because we can't hold everything on our shoulders.
We can't hold everything on our shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's funny, as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking back to just a month or two ago. I had the great fortune, after interviewing on this podcast Jenna Bainbridge, who plays Nessa Rose in Wicked on Broadway, of having the opportunity to go backstage and see a little bit about how everything happens behind the scenes. And she shared something that was really interesting to me, and I'm sure this will resonate with you. She said, during Wicked on Broadway, you see about 30 people on the stage. Like, the audience sees about 30 people, but there's about 175 people, excluding the people that are in the front of the house, that are the ushers and the ticket takers and the people at the merch stands, the maintenance people for the building. There's 175 people that are just making the production happen on stage. And it got me thinking, again, going back to the beginning of our conversation, the minute I told you the Everybody Pulls the Tarp story many, many months ago, you were like, that's theater. And I'm wondering, like, is knowing that you're part of something so much bigger than yourself, even though you are the star, right? By definition, I mean, you're Juliet, okay? And Juliet. Is knowing that you're part of something that's so much bigger than you, that there's so many different components, does that ease any of the tension?
Oh, yeah, it does. And it's the same for me playing Veronica and Heathers. I know that I'm just, like, one part of this bigger picture, this greater story. Okay, maybe I might have more lines, but people are telling stories with their body all around me. maybe they don't have as many lines, but people are still looking at them. People are still following along with them. Everyone is really a part of, and like you said, like the lighting team, the sound team, the ushers, like everyone is making this happen every single night. So it really is a team effort, and it takes a lot of the weight off of my shoulders. That's why I'm like, okay, well, I can't mess it up alone. Like, or if I do mess up, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, I mess up. I forget a line or I say something. Well, my scene partner is going to have my back. They're going to be there for me and they're going to help me. Right. So that's why I love theater and how communal it is.
Lorna, I have had so much fun. I could ask you questions for hours, but you've got so much going on right now, as you always do.
Yeah.
You have been so generous with your time. There is no question in my mind that you are a tarp puller, certified, forever a part of the Everybody Pulls the Tarp family. This has been so much fun. We'll have to do a part 2 sometime. All right, Lorna?
Yes. Maybe after Showman.
Yes, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much, Lorna. I am so grateful that we got to have this conversation.
All righty. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tarp pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Instagram at AndrewMoses123 and sign up for my email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Until next time, keep pulling the tarp.